Welcome to the final upgrades on my 2010/2012 Mac Pro. I say final upgrades because once this project is completed, there's really going to be no place else to go. I'm going to once again be upgrading the RAM. I have here 128 gigabytes of RAM, which is the maximum the machine can hold. Although I understand some people say that the machine will actually deliver better performance if you only put in 3 of the sticks for each processor rather than the maximum 4, which would cut down the amount of RAM. But I'll play around with that and we'll see exactly how true that is. I am also going to be upgrading the processors for real this time, meaning taking the heat sinks off the RAM tray, removing the old processors, cleaning up the old thermal paste, putting in the new processors, putting in the new thermal paste. I am relatively confident at my ability to be able to actually accomplish that. The one that worries me most is going to be the installation of a new airport Bluetooth card. If this is successful, I should be able to enable the continuity aspect of Mac OS, including AirDrop, which is something that I do use with some frequency. So, as I say, I'm probably more worried about that. First step, of course, unlocking, removing the side panel. For both of these, we do need to get the processor and RAM trays out. I'll move that aside. Now, the airport card is there. The old Bluetooth card would be over here. Both of those are going to need to be removed. What I've got is a combination airport Bluetooth that will go into this place, and then the Bluetooth antenna cable is going to have to be routed over here in order to actually connect. As I say, once this is done, we should have handoff. I am anticipating recording the processor upgrade. I am probably not going to record my attempts with the airport card because that's pretty involved. It's going to take quite a while. The RAM, of course, is very simple. So I hope you enjoy this little trip into the past and this actually still amazing computer. Well, here we are with the CPU trays. Now, the problems of using one's phone as a camera, it does a very good job. The problem, though, it has a tendency to ring with important phone calls. I have already done this CPU. I was in the middle of recording that when the phone rang, and I absolutely had to take the call. So, what we will see is my doing the other CPU now. This is a 3mm hex wrench, obviously very long because of the captive screws that you will find inside here. Okay, that's seated in. I notice I'm going across here so that we release pressure evenly. Okay, should be pretty close. Okay. Let's see if this lifts off. Not quite on this end. There. Still not quite. Man. There. All right. Here we see all of the old thermal paste. That will need to be cleaned off. The little kit comes with these very nice wipes. You can also do this with rubbing alcohol. But since the kit has come with the wipes, we might as well make use of them. Okay. You also do this with rubbing alcohol, as I said. Here we have a lint-free gauze pad. And that should be ready to go. Now, I will, clean out the old CPU, but I can do that later, and I don't need to do that on camera. It's basically the same procedure, so we'll just set that one aside over here. Okay, so that's the old one. All right. Now, merveilleux. that into place. All right. Thermal paste. Seen a variety of different guidelines on what to do with the thermal paste. Probably most frequently, though, is about a pea-size dollop right in the center of the CPU, which will then spread when one reattaches the heatsink. All right. And now, okay, there. And now, there we go. There. I was getting that one tightened earlier. Okay. Turning it to just the point where they stop moving. It's a little bit different. If you have the 2009, which is essentially the same, those use delidded CPUs. And if you replace them with lidded CPUs, you have to be extremely cautious. With these, however, just until they stop. Let's check. Don't want to crank them down. Don't want to bend any pins. Okay, that's solid. That's solid. Yep. One last check here. Okay, we're good to go. So I'll just be popping the RAM back in. As I said, I'd already done this one. We should be ready to go, and hopefully this is all going to work. See you in a bit. Well, here's the Mac Pro lying on its side in preparation for the next step. Just a quick word. Once I took the tray, having applied the new processors and the thermal paste and put the heat sinks back on, I did, in fact, bring it up and plug it back into the Mac Pro just to see if everything worked. It did. In that, going to About This Mac, it recognized that there were now two 6-core 3.46 gigahertz processors installed. It also only read 80 gigabytes of RAM, even though I had put 8 16-gig sticks in. That was not going to be too big a problem. I'm quite sure just reseat the RAM modules and everything will be fine. The more worrisome thing, I did that test run with the side off the machine. Largely because things are going to have to be taken out again in order to try to install the new airport card. What I did discover was that there's this bright red light on, which, if I'm understanding this correctly, indicates that one of the processors has a heating problem. It's gonna overheat. So I took the tray back out, brought it back downstairs, took the heat sinks off again, cleaned off the thermal paste that I had just put on, reapplied the thermal paste, put the heat sinks back on, reseated all of the RAM, brought it back up, put it back in the machine, and lo and behold, it's fine. Okay, this is the part that worries me. If we come in here, you can see down there, that is the airport card with its attached antennas. That will need to come out in favor of the new airport card. Over here is the current Bluetooth module. That needs to come out. It is plugged into the logic board here. That needs to come out, and the antenna wire is plugged there. Now, what's going to go in its place, of course, here is the new airport and Bluetooth module combined that will go in replacing the original airport card. And it comes with wires. There's an antenna wire there, the thinner wire. The thicker wire there is the power cable. These will need to run from where the new card will be installed and attached over here. I'm nervous about this, because this is the first time I'm really dealing with the logic board itself in this machine, other than plugging in some PCIe cards to it. But my thought is, if Greg Rutke can do this, surely I can do this. On the other hand, maybe not. If you have never seen Greg Rutke's Rutke Mods videos, I recommend them to you. He has an awful lot of Mac content, which is interesting, and he's a funny guy. And his Mac Pro series really inspired me with a lot of thoughts as to what I was going to do here. He struggled like crazy with this, so, well, we can but try. All right, I'm not even going to try to record this. We'll get back to it, once, hopefully, I have installed the card successfully. We shall see. Till then, hang with it. For you, of course, it'll only be seconds. And we're back. Good gracious Lord, but I think it's in. If you look over here at the Bluetooth, you can see that's the antenna connector. I've dealt with these things on Mac Minis before, quite a number of times. And it's a pain there, but man, was this a pain. The Bluetooth wasn't bad, because since the Bluetooth module is no longer connected there where that connector is, it's built in with the Wi-Fi card. That's why you have to run the antenna cable all the way over, as well as a power cable there that is also connected in. The big hassle is that underneath there are 4 more of those same kind of connectors. So I had to get them all connected, and those wires are just so short. So get all of them connected, then turn the card upside down so it can plug into the mini PCIe, and then get screwed down. I can only pray that all 4 of those connectors stayed on while I was doing that. I think they did, but we're going to find out soon. Well, here we are. We've got everything back together. If we can find the power button here. Just turning on. Now, what I'm looking to here, you can't see the airport card, of course, but that angry red light that was right in there thus far is not on. Startup chime, so we seem to be good. All right. Waiting through the dark screen because there's no boot screen, as I have lamented a number of times. The sense of anticipation. Or is that dread? Now, it should start up, because I had it started before. The worst case scenario here is no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth. And as I think I mentioned when I first started all of this, which was yesterday real time, that worst case scenario will be solved by getting another PCIe card and taking out one of the cards that's in there. And I will say, if you're doing this sort of thing and you happen to have a PCIe slot available, man, would that be easier than trying to connect those antenna leads. Oh, what a pain. Well, I'm going to stop this and I'll come back when something happens. Okay, nothing's ever easy. What I discovered once it finally started up, I had forgotten that I needed to do a PRAM reset. So I did that. For some reason, after the PRAM reset, it booted into High Sierra. I have High Sierra installed on a hard drive that is in there. Which was no big deal. I just went into, of course, you can't get the boot menu, so you can't get the boot picker. But since it booted into High Sierra, I just, went in System Preferences and reset the startup disk back to the Crucial PCIe SSD, and it booted up again. First thing I noted was, in fact, wireless was working, but Bluetooth wasn't. Now, the last thing that I want to do is go back into this machine right now and start reconnecting things. I'm wondering if it's as simple as the Bluetooth antenna came loose when I turned the card over and I couldn't see that it was loose. However, I do have a dongle. So, let's go to About This Mac. And we see here, yes, we do have our 2 by 3.46 gigahertz, 6-core, total of 12, Intel Xeon processors, the 128 gigabytes of RAM, yay, and startup disk is the right startup disk. Let's go to the system report, flip down to Wi-Fi. Okay, and that comes up. Airport Extreme, Broadcom, and supported 802.11, A, B, G, N, and AC. That's important. So going back to Bluetooth. And there we see, yes, low energy supported. It's there. Before there was nothing. Handoff supported, yes. Instant hotspot supported. Everything that we need supported is supported. Now you're going to have to bear with me for just a second, and I'll be back. All right. The reason for the delay, I wanted to test to see if AirDrop is actually working. The problem, excuse me, I'm using my phone to record the video, so I had to get my iPad. Let's see what happens. Son of a gun. Yep. I just airdropped the family portrait to this computer, and it came right over. This is great. All right, now what we're going to be doing here is some Geekbench comparisons. You don't need to watch Geekbench 5 running, but we shall be back when that happens. Okay. Geekbench comparisons and the wrap up for today. Let's see what we've got. First of all, this is the original CPU. It's a quad core single CPU, 512-2023. Here's the first attempt with that new tray, slower processors. 507, the single core went down, which didn't surprise me. The single processors were slower than the one quad core. Obviously, nice jump, a little over twice as much in the multi-core. Given that we were going to, excuse me, 12 core, I thought it might be a little bit higher, but that's okay. All right. The 3.46 gigahertz processors with 12 cores. This is with 128 gig of RAM, 668 single core, 5397 multi-core. Big jump there, over 1,000. over what we had with the older processors. And finally, I did shut it down and take out two modules of RAM, one on each processor, and take a look. Okay, single core, exactly the same. Not really a surprise. But that multi-core, 6841, well over 1,000 higher, and the only difference between the two was taking out RAM modules. So I guess everything that I have heard, I mean, that's actually an excellent score, the comparisons that come in from Geekbench. The only machine in that comparison beating it was a 2019 27-inch 5K iMac. This beat everything else. All right, now the compute scores. With the original processor, 4595. Now, of course, the graphics card has not changed, so shouldn't be hugely different. This always surprised me when I put in the dual tray at first, before upgrading the CPUs. The score actually went down on the compute benchmark. Not significantly, and of course you can run these benchmarks over and over again. You're going to get slightly differing results every time, but still. Okay, now going to the faster processors and more RAM, 4783. So, a noticeable jump there. And taking out 2 RAM modules, 4950. So a big jump, or noticeable jump anyhow. Okay, so I guess that tells us the honest truth. It does do better with 3 RAM modules than with 4. Kind of makes you wonder why they put in 4 slots. Oh, well, there you go. So I'm going to leave those modules out, and I guess I've got spares now. The only other things that didn't quite work, the new card was supposed to enable unlock with Apple Watch, which I find really handy, not having to keep typing in a password every time the thing goes to sleep. But I kept getting an error, could not communicate with Apple Watch, so I guess it doesn't really work. That's unfortunate. But not a huge deal, and AirDrop is working, which is a really important element in workflow here. Okay, now, what does the future hold? We can close that out. Not much in the way of changes. We're maxed out in the processors. The machine will not address anything beyond those 3.46 gigahertz Xeons. We're maxed out on the RAM. The only real possibility is I could upgrade the GPU. I doubt very much. In order to get anything more powerful in there, I'd be giving up on hard drive bay, or having to do the Pixelus mod on the power cable up in the second DVD bay, optical drive bay. I don't see a real need to do that. What I will do is something with the storage. I found a Cyber Week, Cyber Monday sale. Got a real good deal on an 8 terabyte Seagate Barracuda hard disk drive. Now you've got the slowness of it, but the Barracudas are very good. Seagate is a good brand, and I mean 8 terabytes. That's probably more than all the other computers in the house put together. So I am going to be installing that. I'm going to keep that 1 terabyte hard disk drive that's got High Sierra on it. I don't really have a need to be booting into High Sierra, but it's nice that the option is there, and I certainly don't need the space. I will be putting in one other 1 terabyte SSD, maybe a couple of them, into the second optical drive bay, since I have yet to actually use the optical drive on this computer. I'm going to leave that optical drive in there. You know, who knows? I may find a need to have to run it someday. But basically, I mean, this has been a lot of fun to do. These machines are a dream to work on. They're so easy, unless you're trying to replace the wireless card. That one was a big pain. But all's well that ends well. Kind of a pain that the Bluetooth isn't working, but I'll be darned, I am not going to pull this thing apart, take out the card, and try to find what it is that isn't connected. Maybe sometime in the future when I've got a lot of time in my hands, just because I like for things to work. But using the dongle, you know, we've got continuity working, and that's a huge plus. So all in all, this has been a big win, and for the future, we're pretty much just gonna be working with this still very, very powerful machine. I hope you've enjoyed looking at this, and give one last shout out to Greg Rutke of Rutke Mods, who really inspired a great deal of what I've done with this machine. Keep up the good work, Greg. All right, so enjoy, and probably back with more banjo videos another time. Take care.